Assalamualaikum. Today I will talk about file management in legal firms. The first point is retainer or free agreement. As a lawyer, it is important to establish clear guidelines for file ownerships and disposition with your clients. One way to do this is by creating a retainer or free agreement that outlines your record retention policies. In this agreement, you should clearly state who owns the file and who is responsible for the cost of copying and delivering records to the client. You may want to specify that you, as the lawyer, own the file and all documents generated or accumulated during the representation, excluding any intrinsically valuable documents that should belong to the client. Additionally, the agreement should state that the client will bear all the costs of making and delivering any copies of file documents, including the cost of creating an archival copy for your personal use if you deliver the original file to the client. By establishing these guidelines upfront, you can avoid potential disputes with clients over file ownerships and disposition. So, you need to make sure to create a clear and comprehensive retainer or fee agreement that outlines your record retention policies that protects both you and your clients. Next point is setting up case files. As a lawyer, it is important to set up your case file in a way that makes them easily accessible and organized. One way to do this is by keeping your files numerically, especially if you have a large collection of files. This will make it easier for you to retrieve the files you need quickly and efficiently. Additionally, it is important to avoid keeping any original client documents in your files. Instead, make sure to copy all documents and correspondence related to the case and keep them in the file. This will help ensure that you have a complete records of the case and that you are not holding onto any original documents that belong to the client. By following this practice for setting up your case files, you can ensure that you are organized and efficient in your work as a lawyer. So, make sure to keep your files numerically and avoid keeping any original client documents in your file. Next is closing case files. When it comes to closing case files, it is important to follow a structured approach to ensure that all necessary steps are taken. There are six steps to consider before disposing of case files. Firstly is to assess whether the objective of the representation have been met. Second is send the client a disengagement letter that clearly terminates the representation. Third is by verify that any amounts owed to the lawyer by the client have been paid or appropriately addressed. Fourth is confirm that any trust funds related to the file are properly disbursed and accounted for. Fifth is by stripping the file of duplicate or worthless material. And lastly is dispose of the file by returning it to the client, retaining it accordingly to your retention schedule, archiving it, or ultimately destroying it. Additionally, if the files are voluminous, lawyers can opt to have a document disposal company to dispose them. This company can provide a certification of confidential destruction that ensure that the sensitive information is properly handled and destroyed. By following these steps and considering professional document disposal service when necessary, lawyers can ensure that case files are closed in a thorough and confidential manner.
Next, file disposition, delivery, and receipt. The lawyer will deliver the file according to the client request. The entire file, including client paper, document disposition, and categorized file, will be included in the delivery. Client paper will be returned upon request as it wholly instructs. However, protected documents such as duplicates will not be returned. And the lawyer also must get a detailed receipt signed by the client. If they mailing the file, they will use registered or certified mail and ask for a written receipt and keep the receipt on file permanently. Next, file liens. A lien is a legal claim or a right against a property. File liens protect their right to be paid for legal service and costs, and lawyers are allowed to keep a liens on paper in their possession. However, certain factors can limit the ability to accept the lien, such as potential harm to the client and the client's financial situation. Next, making archival copies for your protection. So, experienced lawyers often prioritize their safeguarding of their work by creating archival copies when providing original files to client. However, it is not mandatory to do so. In situations where there is a potential for disciplinary claims, client dissatisfaction, or strained relationship, it is advisable to maintain a comprehensive backup of the entire file for our records. And it is important to note that the cost of making these copies will be covered by a lawyer unless the client consents to cover the expenses. Next, destroying old files. Destroying old files has always been the subject of questions among law firms since they have limited knowledge of record management, especially in destroying old files. So, they will transfer the inactive file to the dead file storage. However, over time, they realized that keeping the inactive files was no longer practical. So, there are 4 methods for destroying old files, including first, we have the micro solution. The micro solution use microfilm to keep their file. Some might efficiently file this, but on the other hand, there are some documents or file that cannot be microfilmed by law. Second, we have self-destruction. Self-destruction can be made if the file or letter notify the client of the time and place of disposition after notifying the client or after analyze the file. And third, we have stripping. The lawyer will strip all the duplicate copies of materials and the original document will be returned to the client. And lastly, set a schedule. Set a schedule, also known as retention schedule. The file that has been closed usually will be stripped down permanently. Some firms are destroying some categories of file according to a schedule that has been set. So, the schedule is different with each file.